Sleepless with Steve, live on Twitch TV. And maybe the most horrifying thing we will see on this show today is Dominic's background. Tip of the cap for Dominic. I had a last-minute idea, and he executed it flawlessly.
It's going to be a 30-year horror at least. So by the time we're getting our Social Security checks, we're going to be dealing with this thing. So
what Social Security checks?
Exactly.
What Social Security checks? What rights? Moreover, I'm Steve Pulaski. Good to be with you on a Thursday night, unusual night for Sleepless with Steve, but we had to do a bonus show because we are doing something very special tonight. We are talking our top 5, count them 5, favorite horror movies. So we're going to be talking about 15 movies tonight, not as an in-depth type of show. We all have lives here. We can't go that long, but we will give each our top 5 favorite horror films. Of course, I'm joined by Dominic Guanzon, who needs no introduction, and Joe Viso, whose costume at least needs an introduction.
Yes, I'm embracing the Italian heritage of myself by being
Very
Luigi
so.
from the Mario Brothers. I couldn't find the mustache, but you get the idea.
I see it there.
And the gloves, I'm holding one right now. Oh, there we go. Yeah, but they blend into the background, so I'm not going to wear them.
I was going to say, you almost missed a golden opportunity to, I should have suggested this pre-show. You missed a golden opportunity to have your mansion as a background.
Change it now.
Delay the show.
Don't delay the show. Take five. But yeah, I had this idea months ago, honestly, when we were kind of, forecasting for shows down the road. I said, let's do a top favorite horror movie show. Why the hell not? I don't think we're going to do a favorite Christmas movie special just because the year is getting hectic at the end. But I think the next time we do another show like this will be our top 5 favorite and least favorite films of 2020. I don't know if I can put 2020 down as a whole, as an entire year, as the worst thing of 2020, but we'll have to talk about those logistics come December. But good to be with you guys tonight, wherever you are watching, wherever you may be, however you may be viewing us, maybe on YouTube even too, after the fact. Also, too, this is for the YouTube viewers as well that will be watching this show down the road. The majority of people who will be watching this show down the road, all the trailers to these movies will be in the description. Just an FYI. Our lists will be down there, and I will have trailers as well. So I'm going to get things started. We're going to go one by one, counting from 5 to 1. It's going to go me, Dominic, and then Joe, back to me, giving our favorite horror films. Because this Halloween, I think a lot of us are going to be spending it inside, much to the chagrin of a lot of people. But I think it's the safest thing to do. And I've always held up, though. I mean, parties are fun, don't get me wrong, but I always try to watch at least 1 or 2 horror movies on Halloween, really throughout the month of October, but there's something nice about it. And it's a Saturday, too. Halloween's a Saturday this year, but of course having fun is illegal this year, so that doesn't matter a whole lot. But we will get started. I will give my number 5 favorite horror film.
As a cleansing of the wicked. Dying's not an option. This is Sheriff John Quincy Wydell.
What police have uncovered, words can't describe it. Body parts, human skulls, and a mass graved under the crawl space of
The Devil's Rejects, my number 5 favorite horror film. Tip of the cap to Joe, too. He's running the graphics over here. This is a full-blown operation. Not as planned as it could have been, much to my fault over here, but we're making it work today. Devil's Rejects, though, is my favorite horror film. Very fitting, too, that I'm talking about this movie today because Rob Zombie's dropping new music for the first time in like 5 years tomorrow. So I'm excited about that. I'm a fan of Rob Zombie's music, and I'm a big fan of his movies. I know Rob Zombie's kind of a divisive voice when it comes to horror. A lot of people like his music, but a lot of people aren't as big on his movies. His style isn't for everybody, but I've long admired his, I guess you could say, vomit vomitorium of blood, absurd humor and dialogue, horrifying set pieces, and circus freak characters. His movies are not for the faint of heart. They are graphic, they are gory, they are bloody, they are vulgar. I don't know if you gentlemen have watched any Rob Zombie movies in the past. Dom, I can bet you haven't. Joe, have you seen any Rob Zombie movies?
I saw his Halloween remake, and I saw The Devil's Reject. Is that the sequel or prequel to the original one of the House of a Thousand Corpses?
The sequel, The House of a Thousand
Okay,
Corpses.
I've seen House of a Thousand Corpses. I never got to see Devil's Rejects yet.
Devil's Rejects is my favorite of the trilogy because the third one is also just came out a couple years ago. It's called Three from Hell. Everybody forgets it was not very marketed very well. But I love the cast of this one. It's got Bill Moseley in it, Sherry Moon Zombie, Rob's wife. We should all have somebody in our lives as loyal as Sherry Moon Zombie. She's so good. And the late, great Sid Haig, iconic horror actor. They're all terrific. They're characters in this. And even Ken Furry, who you might remember as Keenan's dad in Keenan and Kel, he is in this movie as well. He plays a hilarious character, and it's one of my all-time favorite lines in the movie. I even say it sometimes in socially acceptable settings. Why are we all standing around like stone-foot roosters in a fuck farm? Ken Furry kills that line entirely. And then there's obviously the iconic scene with Sid Haig asking a little kid about, do you like clowns? Do we make you laugh? It's an unnervingly creepy, ugly movie with some really grotesque scenes. Again, not for the faint of heart, but The Devil's Rejects lives up to its name, really, and just how horrifying of a movie it can be, but also very stylistic, and it also probably has the best use of Lynyrd Skynyrd's song Freebird that will ever be committed to film. Highly recommend The Devil's Rejects if you haven't seen it. That's my number 5 favorite horror film right there.
Real quick, Rob Zombie did Werewolf Women of the SS, the trailer for Grindhouse.
Yeah.
Dude, okay. Maybe I should watch more Rob Zombie.
I was going to say, I know you're a little, you could talk about it. I don't want to steal your thunder. You're a little shakier on horror than I think me and Joe are. You are, yes.
Do we establish that this is not a definitive top 5 horror movies, period? This is our personal lists. Our personal lists.
Yes. That's why I keep saying favorite. Notice I haven't said the word best.
That's true.
Yet.
You haven't.
These are favorites. These are movies that I love because I consider a favorite movie, and I think a lot of us do. I think if people consider favorite movies that you can go back to. You don't get tired of. They don't get boring to you. You can revisit them. That's my definition of a favorite movie. Like, I love The Godfather, but I'm not going to call The Godfather one of my favorite movies, if that makes sense.
Boyhood's a great movie, but like, do I want to sit through a kid's entire life multiple times in a row? Probably not.
100%. There's a big difference there. But yeah, Devil's Rejects, my number 5, and I'm going to send it over to Dom. You're number 5 now.
My number 5 is, do we say the name before we go? Okay, is 1984's Without Warning. 1994's Without Warning. I made the same mistake before in the message. Without Warning.
Obviously, we'll stay on as long as we can. And we'll keep feeding you the signal from the Johnson Space Center.
So, Without Warning, this is a kind of an obscure one. You might have come across it when, or if you scour through YouTube, particularly through kind of like nuclear weapon videos, which is, I have this weird affinity for nuclear like weapons, and like I think they're horrible, but at the same time they're just so fascinating because they can just end civilization and all human life as we know it. So it's just this weird fascination. And also, like, for a good few decades, we were totally ready to just like we were totally ready to just like blow each other up as a species. So it's just fascinating to me. And while Without Warning does not feature a nuclear plot line, during the 80s and the early 90s, there was this very interesting like sub genre of movies, particularly TV movies, where the whole format was done in the style of a newscast. So it was like semi-realistic. And Without Warning is one of my favorites. So to better explain it, it's if you watch the whole thing, which is on YouTube, by the way, it's a TV movie, never reached theaters. So you can find it on YouTube for free, the whole thing. Literally the whole thing is as if you're watching the news, like if you were watching CNN for an hour, if you're watching MSNBC for an hour. And Without Warning in particular features the really cool plot line of 3 meteors hitting Earth at the same time, but in different parts of the world, and just how the plot unravels is kind of generic. It's actually pretty unique, but I should say how it plays out is very tropey in the science fiction sense. But just the format of all of it unraveling in a news style is still kind of kitsch in a way. I think I misused that word, but it's, you never, I think you never 100% buy into it, but you can like, if you like the world of journalism as much as I do, who's like fascinated by it, you can get pretty into it. And how they go through the tropey things of like, oh, a child gets abducted by aliens, or the rude scientist has to figure out how this goes on. And all of it happening in the form of a newscast is really cool. And the cast really lends a lot of authenticity here. The 2 main anchors who play anchors in the movie, one of them was a legitimate news anchor that you would see on TV all the time. His name is Sander Vanoker. I'm not particularly well versed in his work, but he did news legit on like ABC and stuff. And he proctored a presidential debate. The other news anchor is Jane Kasmerick, who was the mom in Malcolm in the Middle. But there are a lot of the on-site reporters too are also real-life journalists. So there's a level of authenticity here, and really just the novelty of this plot line, which is actually I was actually really into, is really, really cool. Is it a horror movie? That's debatable. But it has elements of that, particularly in the mystery of its climax and how all of this kind of like alien, what essentially is like a first contact scenario. It actually plays out in a really interesting way that you don't find too often, despite all the tropey things that happen throughout the movie. But regardless, this kind of subgenre, I don't think even there's a name for it, but it's I guess mockumentary is the closest thing.
Mockumentary,
yeah,
probably.
I think that's what it is. There's another one called Countdown to Looking Glass. That one is real life. Like it plays more into the nuclear destruction scenario between and a newscast there. And there's a number of them that for a good while. Special Bulletin. It was like there's a nuclear bomb that's going to go off in like South Carolina or something. And it's like they keep cutting back and forth and blah, 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 and how that pulls out. Again, all of these you can find pretty much on YouTube because they were all TV movies, and I've watched them all, and they're really cool as a novelty. And Without Warning in particular actually at one point send some chills down my spine for a brief moment. So I'll count it as I'll put it at number 5 for my horror movies list. Again, I'm not that well versed in horror. I don't have time to be scared. I like to smile, or at least be intensify with it. But yeah, there's my number 5.
I made a note. I'm definitely going to look into that one. You sold me on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, to move on to Joe next?
Yes, I believe so, right? You up next?
Yes, you are.
Okay, here is my number 5 favorite horror film.
I told you that I want to go to that festival in Sweden.
No, you said it would be cool to go.
Yeah, and then I got the opportunity and I decided to do it.
I don't mind you going. I just wish you would have told me. That's all.
Dude, she needs a therapist. You've been wanting out of this stupid relationship for like a year now.
And don't forget about all of the beautiful Swedish women you'll meet in June.
Okay, guys.
That's not her again. Seriously?
Babe, what's happening? Danny.
My number 5 is Midsommar. One of my favorite studios right now is A24, and they have been killing it a lot recently. And last year, 3 of their films I found to be some of the best of the year, and it was really hard when it came down to a top 10 list with The Lighthouse, Uncut Gems, and Midsommar. And Midsommar actually ended up being my #1 favorite movie last year. The reason being is that it is bringing back horror that I really like, and that is just not really jump scares, not really monsters running around. It's just putting you in a creepy environment and just letting the plot unfold, and you're just really disturbed the longer and longer this movie goes on. This is a horror film, and I'm going to show you right now. It takes place the entire time during the daytime. That's not a typical thing done in horror films. That's really hard to accomplish, and somehow Ari Aster, the director of Hereditary, knocks it out of the park here. There's some great performances and some amazing cinematography. Again, it's all done in the daytime too, so you get to have the beautiful cinematography because of that, but it does stay creepy. When you get towards the end of this film, there is some really disturbing things going on with this weird Swedish cult. I absolutely love this movie. If you haven't checked it out, if you haven't checked out a lot of A24's work, definitely do so. Midsommar is my #5.
I'm honestly just so impressed by it. I haven't seen it, but I have seen scenes from it, and it's like, yo, this is actually freaking me out. Because like when you think Sweden, you think ABBA, IKEA, meatballs, like yeah, Herner, whatever. I can't even do the voice. It's
Swedish fish.
Yeah. So it's like super friendly. So to take Sweden, make it scary and in the daylight, that took balls. So shout out to them.
Yeah, that's such a good movie. I saw it in an empty theater on 4th of July in the afternoon, and it was an experience. I was really glad the theater was empty. Unfortunate the theater was empty. I wish more people saw it. But Midsommar was I believe, #2 on my favorite films of last year. I loved it. Great choice there, Joe. My #4 favorite horror movie is...
Grandpa, I want the truth about Christmas.
If it's the truth you want, then it's the scary truth you're gonna have.
According to the Book of Claus, Santa, Satan's only son, lost a bet and was forced to spread Christmas cheer. But now, all bets are off.
Santa?
Yes, there is a Santa Claus.
Santa's Sleigh. S-L-A-Y. Santa's Sleigh. This is one of those movies I had to convince my mother to rent me at Family Video when I was about 10 years old. And we just talked about our memories at Family Video on a couple weeks ago. I believe it was last week's show, actually. And Santa's Sleigh, this is a weird one. This is definitely an obscure movie. I don't think a lot of people have seen it. Shout out the director, David Steinman, who's actually a Facebook friend of mine. We've communicated before in the past, usually around Christmas time when I'm watching it and feel compelled to bother him and message him, and we talk a little bit. So shout out to David Steinman, man. You're a good dude, and you made one of my favorite horror films of all time. This is undoubtedly the more comedic horror movie on my list. But I contend it has some genuine moments of horror. It's essentially about a killer Santa Claus. Now, that trope's been done to death, especially by the time this came out in 2005. That trope has really been done to death. But what I loved about this one, even when I saw it as a kid, was that they tried to really make a backstory about Santa. And Santa's played by the wrestler Bill Goldberg in this movie, who does a phenomenal job and owns this role. And the story's fascinating, too, because basically it takes place in a town called Hell's Township, and it revolves around an old man, his grandson, and his grandson's girlfriend. And essentially, the idea is that Santa lost a bet to an angel, and instead of spreading fear and evil into the world, I think 1,000 years, if I'm not mistaken, I've seen it enough, you think I'd know it by heart. I think for 1,000 years, he had to spread cheer because Santa is actually Satan's only son. That's the joke of the movie. And now the 1,000 years are up. The bet's over. So Santa returns and he's evil. Now, the witty part about this movie is there's so many little things. There's so many little gags in this that I didn't notice as a kid. For example, the opening scene of this movie has a lot of recognizable faces. Chris Kattan, James Caan, who you remember from the show Vegas, along with a number of other things. Fran Drescher, who I don't think it needs any introduction. Rebecca Gayheart, I believe, is in the opening scene. The joke is, in the opening scene, all these people are having like a family dinner. They get murdered. Every actor in that scene, including Bill Goldberg, is Jewish. That's the whole joke at the opening scene. It's so witty. It's so sly. And there's so many great lines even too. It's a very one-liner heavy movie, which I think some people might not like. But there's I can't deny. There's a cheesiness to this that I love. Like there's a great scene of Santa hunting down Douglas Smith and his girlfriend, Emily DeRaven, who I believe was on Lost. I believe that was her thing. She was on the TV show Lost. He's trying to find them in a library, and he picks up a Charles Dickens book, Santa does, and he goes, Christmas can sure scare the Dickens out of people. And there's certain lines like that. It's corny to a degree, but it's also extremely funny, and it's got some really memorable moments. There's a great scene of Santa Claus in a strip club, and the pastor is there taking the collection plate of money and spending it on strippers. There's some phenomenal moments in this movie. I highly recommend it. I believe you can stream it for free on Tubi or Pluto or one of those free streaming services. I watch it every Christmas. It's part of about 4 movies that I watch every single Christmas. If we did a Christmas movie show, it would absolutely make my list. I've probably seen this movie 20 times. Santa's Sleigh, SLAY. Check it out. And David Steinman, do your boy a solid. Try to get a sequel made. At least write a sequel and send it to me. I've always wanted a sequel. It was never going to happen, but I've always wanted a sequel to this thing. It's set up so perfectly for one. Santa's Sleigh, my number 4 favorite horror film.
The trailer looks awesome. Like just essentially Goldberg, just throwing exploding presents at people looks awesome. I might watch that. It doesn't look that scary, so it's more,
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple moments. There's a couple death scenes that are like pretty not gruesome, but they're pretty shocking.
The implication or whatever.
Like Fran Drescher's hair gets burned off and then she gets drowned in a bowl of eggnog. Like there's definitely some moments. Like there's some moments there, at least as a kid, that scared me. But definitely more comedic than horror, but deserves a place on this list. Santa's Sleigh, my number 4.
Dude, all these movies so far, like maybe when we get down to the list. But like, I feel like this next one's probably going to be the actual scariest so far. Granted, we are early on the list, but my number 4 is...
Have you heard about this videotape that kills you when you watch it? You start to play it, and it's like somebody's nightmare. And as soon as it's over, your phone rings. And what they say is, you will die in 7 days.
Am I good? Do I talk now?
I was gonna die.
Okay. Yeah, dude. This is probably the actual scariest movie on my list. And I'm actually still surprised I watched it, probably because I didn't even know what I was getting into. I think because I heard like The Ring, I was like, oh, Lord of the Rings, cool. And then I was like, oh, this isn't even close to that. So yeah, this came out in 2002. The Ring, if you don't know what it is, the whole point is that it's a cursed tape that if you watch the videotape, you will die in 7 days. That was the kind of the buzzword for a couple of years. It kills you. It's kind of like a precursor to like creepypasta and stuff, stuff you would read on the internet.
Yeah.
And, I don't even think that's a wholly original concept, but it did really well, particularly as an American adaptation to a Japanese movie, particularly a Japanese horror film, because the Japanese are just experts at horror. They will mess you up.
I didn't know this was based on a Japanese property. I always thought The Grudge was, the Japanese movie that got adapted. I didn't know The Ring was also Japanese.
This was the first Ring You.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dude. And watching this as I was 8 years old, this messed me up.
Yeah, we were young when this came out.
Back in 2002. I haven't watched it since I watched it in 2002 when my parents rented it from that family video back in the day. And they brought it home. It's like, yeah, let's watch The Ring. Okay, cool. It's family night. We'll watch that. Dude, when it got to the scene where like she opens the closet door and her daughter is like completely killed and like emaciated or whatever, and it's just horrifying. It's like, oh, okay. I was like, I did not look at the screen. I was looking away and like had a pillow to my face for like 70% of the movie. It was only when it was like talking and like everything was safe and people were whatever. But things freaked me out, dude. The tape itself, the cursed tape sequence itself freaks me out. There's a dead horse. There's a horse who I don't even remember the plot point. It like goes over a boat and then it gets stuck under the propellers of the boat. And then just the shot of like looking over the boat and then like you just see blood come out of the propellers. It's like just really, really freaked me out as a kid. And they do some like really cool stuff with the idea too, where I think Naomi Watts is the lead in this movie. And like she keeps watching the tape because I get, as soon as you watch it, you're screwed. So like, why not just watch it some more? And I think
analyze it.
Yeah, might as well. But it's like there's like a fly that goes in the tape, or not in the tape, but like on the screen while watching the tape. But like she picks at it and like the fly becomes real and like just like breaking, not the fourth wall, but like breaking reality in that sense. Really, like just like, oh, you can do that as like a creative concept. That's really cool. Also horrifying. So yeah, it was a trip. Again, I did not look at the screen for most of it once the first scare happened, and I was so scared of the concept that I kept thinking to myself, okay, if I ever come across the VHS tape and like it looks like that, immediately, like I kept on like thinking of plans. I was like training myself, like nuclear ducking cover. I was like, look away, tell my parents immediately. I believed it was real. But The Ring, dude, this probably easily the scariest movie on this list for me. It messed me up.
Yeah, quick note before we segue to Joe too. That movie was directed by Gore Verbinski, and
it's a German art house, right?
I was gonna say I know Gore Verbinski. I would assume he's Polish, like myself.
Oh, he did Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah, he did several movies. He went on to do Pirates of the Caribbean. He did Mouse Hunt before The Ring.
Rango.
He did The Weather. Right, I was going to get to that. He did The Weatherman with Nick Cage, a very underrated drama, The Weatherman, and Rango, which is honestly one of the best animated movies of the last 10 years.
I need to watch that.
Agreed. It's on Amazon.
I should watch it.
Or Hulu. It's on one of those two. It's very good.
Nobody talks about that one, but I like Verbinski a hell of a lot as a director, and I'm motivated because I haven't seen The Ring since probably a couple years after it came out. I think I actually watched it on VHS too. I think the first time I did see it, and I know they made a sequel to it, The Ring 2. I don't think they made a third one, at least in America.
They did, The Rings, or Rings, the plural one.
Oh yeah, they did the remake.
Yeah.
They aliened it.
That's right, they did. I saw that one in theaters.
And she
I remember.
Crashes a whole plane.
I completely forgot that Rings even existed. I did see that in theaters.
Yeah, you and everybody else.
It was clearly memorable. Joe, you're fourth.
Yep. Here is my number 4.
Halloween night. A small American town. 15 years ago. Michael?
My number 4 is John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween. Just like when we reviewed that amazing film, Hubie Halloween, I talked about how much I loved how much it represented Halloween. From the look, the decorations, everything. But it's not a good movie. But when you do a good movie like Halloween, I appreciate it even more. This is literally everything I love about Halloween. The look of it, the pumpkins, the costumes, all taking place on the night. And last but not least, one of the creepiest serial killers who is still making some pretty good movies to this day. Even the Rob Zombie remake, I know a lot of people aren't crazy about it. I think it's a decent remake. Even in the new Blumhouse films, I'm looking forward to as well. This film to me was one of the first horror films I watched as a kid. I watch it almost every Halloween when I can find it on AMC or wherever it's playing during its 31 Nights of Horror. I absolutely love tuning into this one, the second one even just for the hell of it. I love watching Halloween Resurrection and just watching Busta Rhymes do kung fu. Like how Tremors is for Steve, Halloween is kind of like that for me. I grew up watching a lot of them. Same with Nightmare on Elm Street, but I'm more closer with Halloween since it was the first one I've ever watched. It's creepy, it's a classic, and Jamie Lee Curtis proves why she is the ultimate scream queen out of all of them out there.
Excellent choice there. Obviously, probably number one of the most iconic horror theme songs.
Yeah.
That score is immaculate, to say the least. And I'm with you, Joe. I like the Rob Zombie remake a lot. I hated the second one that he did when I first saw it. I watched it again. I like it.
Okay.
It offers like telepathy though into the mix, which is kind of odd, but it's grungy. Halloween 2 is the Rob Zombie remake is an interesting sequel. If nothing else, Nights in White Satin by the Moody Blues plays a significant role in that movie, which is cool. But the original, though, can't top it. There was a period of time, I think, in high school, I think all 4 years of high school, that was my go-to on Halloween to watch. I've seen that movie probably about 6 or 7 times. Excellent choice right there.
Real quick, just watching that trailer just reminded me, like, we made movies like that as like a country. like we made trailers like that. I was like, wow. Because like I'm so used to the parody. Like I was waiting for like a parody level thing to follow, but no, it was legit. And it's like I think I can handle Halloween now as a 26-year-old. I think I can watch it now.
I think it's the parody clause though. Like it's kind of like The Godfather. That I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Right. You've seen it. It diminishes the original in some capacity, but you've seen so many parodies of it. Like it. Unfortunately, that's kind of how it's become. We'll move forward though. Keep marching right along. Number 3, my third favorite horror film is.
If you had a car, you could pick me up in Colorado.
By the way, I'm just watching on the stream itself. I don't know if we need to.
How far would you go for the girl you've always wanted?
Sexy choice. Vintage 1971.
How much would you do for a brother in need?
Thank you for coming. You're welcome. I'll drop him off in Denver. I'll see you tomorrow.
Breaker 19.
This is like a prehistoric internet or something. Can you do a woman's voice?
How much fun could you have?
Hey there, this is Candy Cane. Who's this?
Rusty Nail.
If I were there, Rusty Nail, I'd make you feel good.
This is turning me on.
When the joke...
I'll be at the Lone Star Motel.
What room?
Room 17. I can't wait.
This is awesome!
is now...
Awesome!
Who the hell is it?
Joyride. Oh God, I want to do it in my Paul Walker voice. Hey, Rusty Nail, it's me. I love this. I'm smiling throughout that whole trailer. I was hoping you played it enough to establish it as a horror movie because unknowing eyes would assume it's a rom-com.
I was gonna say some people are gonna think it's a sex drive like comedy.
Joyride from 2001 with Paul Walker, rest in peace, Steve Zahn, and Lily Sobieski. Really terrific thriller. One of the most tense experiences I had watching a thriller for the first time many, many years ago. This is an intriguing one because this movie did not do very well in theaters, but it came to video and it was a roaring success in being a rental, which you don't hear about anymore. But a lot of people rented it on VHS, and that's how the majority of people did come to see that movie. And it's essentially deals with Paul Walker bailing his brother out of jail and then making a cross-country trip to go meet his girlfriend. And his brother buys a CB radio and they harass this trucker and trick him to thinking that he's going to get like a piece of ass in a motel. And by playing Candy Cane, that's the breaker, that's the CB name. And they harass this trucker, but it winds up resulting in an unsuspecting person in a hotel room getting killed by the trucker. And the trucker winds up stalking the brothers. And God, is it creepy. And what a finale, too. I've seen this. This is another movie I've seen probably since I watched it originally. Probably have seen this movie 8 or 9 times. And that finale is so damn tense, and it builds and builds over the course of about 20 minutes, and it's intoxicating in that way. It's a welcome combo too, I will say, of charismatic actors, and it kind of plays not as much as Steven Spielberg's first movie Duel, but it does take like the idea of unseen terror to a new level, because you do not really get a look at Rusty Nail ever in the movie. You see the truck, but you don't see him, and that it plays with that a lot. I think it's a hell of a movie, and I think it's pretty well acted as well, with also some good one-liners too. I like when Steve Zahn tells Paul Walker, "In 100 years you'll be dead, and none of this will matter." There's some good quotes.
That hits
in this
differently
movie.
now.
I know, doesn't it? There's some really good quotes in this movie, and I always go back to how Rusty Nail says at the one point, "I like the rain, keeps everybody inside, washes everything clean." Joyride, my number 3 movie.
All right, my turn here. Number 3 movie. I think a lot of people are gonna know this one.
You got your toothbrush?
Check.
Do you have your deodorant?
Check.
Do you have your cozy clothes?
Got that.
What?
Do they know I'm black?
Should they?
You might wanna,
Mom and Dad, my black boyfriend will be coming up this weekend. I just don't want you to be shocked that he's a black man.
I ain't never seen you like this before, bruh. Meeting families, taking road trips. Don't come back all bougie, man. Come back, get your damn pants up to your damn stomach.
So you guys coming up from the city?
Yeah, we're just heading up for the weekend.
Can I see your license, please?
He wasn't driving.
I didn't ask who was driving. I asked to see his ID.
Dude, watching this is just not the same without a theater full of black people around you just howling at the screen the whole time. And usually, I know there's a lot of people who are really annoyed by that, no matter what race you are, just people talking out loud.
I just want to say, Dom's a man of color. He can say that.
Person of color. I'm Filipino. Totally. I got my card. No, I don't. For this movie in particular, I did not care. If it's like horror comedy, that's like something that no matter what, just people yelling at the screen for me, I go for that. If it's like straight horror, no. But regardless, this was so much fun. I went with Chelsea, my girlfriend, and she was having so much fun too. Every twist and turn. Spoiler for a 4-year-old movie that was like Oscar nominated and Talk of the Town.
That you should have seen by now.
You really should have. It's damn good. But like the twist when Allison Williams, aka Rose, the girlfriend, she comes down the stairs. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I got the fucking keys right here, and it's like, God, everyone in the theater, son of a bitch. Somebody like, I knew it again. Like, I'm honestly like more reliving my experience watching it than like talking about the film itself. But really, that just goes to show how fun this movie was, and not in like a Santa's sleigh way where it's like over the top. This movie is straight up freaking psycho, dude. It is twisted. It is dark. And there is genuine mystery here. You know something's up right away. But just the way that it lulls you into this sense of unease through the natural, the very time-tested guess who's coming to dinner scenario, where it's like, oh, white daughter, black son, or the black son, black boyfriend. I was like, oh, white parents and all that stuff. And just seeing that play out, but in the worst way possible, in a way you couldn't even imagine. Dude, the cast here is freaking legendary. Bradley Whitford, just always perfect for playing the slimiest, but well-dressed dude possible, or something. Maybe not even well-dressed, but just like disarming, but also something's up under him. Stephen Root, oh my God, he's so good in Barry. I freaking love him in Barry. And watching him in this movie too is again a huge twist, as if anything. Daniel Kaluuya, who I actually first watched in Black Mirror, which I think was the reason why he was cast. I think they saw him first in the Black Mirror episode 50 Million Merits, according to this, according to Wikipedia. So it's like that's perfect because it's all in the eyes with him, and the way he cries, the motif of the teacup and stuff.
He's so reactive.
The sunken place there, yeah, right. The sunken place. It is just so damn good. It's a good mystery. I wish I could watch it again for the first time. Cliche as it is, I genuinely wish that, particularly in a theater full of people screaming at at every big twist. And dude, we mentioned this when we reviewed. I think we reviewed it, right? We reviewed it back at the station. But the ending here, where the twist of when you see police lights and a police car roll up to the scene of a crime at the end of a horror film that's supposed to be something of relief. I was like, okay, we've reached the end. It's over now. This is the finality. Get Out, and it's total subversion of that, and freaking Jordan Peele's genius way of introducing that, where it becomes a moment of the ultimate horror. It becomes so real and so scary in that moment. Probably the scariest part of that movie, in my opinion, where it's like the safest thing becomes the scariest thing, is just one of my favorite movie moments of all time. Like, I'm not even exaggerating there. It's one of my personal favorites. And then when it turns out to be Little Ray Howery as Rod, ooh boy, that's so satisfying. Again, the theater was like, oh, I wish I could relive it. That's so good, so fun.
Yeah. One of the best scenes one of the best moments, I think, in a theater, that collective shock that calls you out, because as much as you want to admit the police do not treat people of color differently, even if you say that aloud, it calls you out in that moment.
You knew. You knew.
Yes, 100%. Great choice there, Dom.
All right. Well, my number 3 also happens to be Get Out, so I'm just gonna let the trailer keep playing here.
Yeah, there you go. Wow. Look at this.
Yeah, no, Dom, I mean, you hit everything on the head, man. I saw this in a packed theater too, and it is a riot of a time, man. I absolutely love seeing this in a theater full of people. And you're absolutely right. When you get to the ending of this film and the cop call pulls up, you're like, shit. Like, and then when his friend steps out of the car and like everybody in my theater lost their mind, started clapping. And when he's like, I told you, I'm part of the in TSA. Like, everybody in my theater started clapping. Like, like just how awesome it was to have that moment, that actually like a black character not only survives a horror film, but he gets out as well.
That's true.
No pun intended. No pun intended with that.
Yeah.
I have to do hats off to Jordan Peele entirely here. He's bringing back horror to kind of like the Twilight Zone type of horror that I really like. And I know he's
literally.
I know he's hosting like the show as well. The show I still have not watched because I don't have CBS All Access. But both with Get Out and Us, there is like this Twilight Zone feel to both of those movies. And I really love seeing it on the big screen again. But not only that, I love seeing the social commentary it brings. And I'm loving the success that these movies are having because he takes his time with these movies. He actually gives good characters, some funny, witty jokes, and last but not least, some actual genuinely scary concepts here, both with Us and Get Out. Us, yeah, it didn't come as close as Get Out, but it's a hard film to top. I don't know if he's ever going to top it in his career, but one thing's for sure, after his first 2 movies he's directed, I can't wait to see more from Mr. Peele.
Well said. Well said all around with Get Out. Made my favorite films of the year list that year. Just an all-around blast. And do you guys miss movie theaters anymore now, having relived that?
Yeah.
Like,
Get Out and like The Avengers, like that. Oh man, it's going back to it. It's like a bygone era, dude.
Movie theaters cannot come back soon enough. Moving forward, my number 2 film is
Nice.
It's a weird feeling.
The cabin starts to shake, right? And the left side blows up, and then the whole plane just explodes. The plane's gonna explode! It's not a joke! It's not a joke!
We get thrown off the plane all because Brownie has a bad dream?
I saw it.
The plane! It's gonna blow up! It's gonna blow up!
All 287 passengers
Final
are feared dead.
Destination. I jumped the gun a little bit there.
No, you're
Final
fine.
Destination. Perfect. The original one. Although I would pick any of the sequels, all but the fourth one. But this is a series that I watched way, way, way younger than I should have. And it made me paranoid a lot. I'm not going to lie. I saw the first one when I was probably about 7 or 8. And the thing about these movies that is crazy, and they made 5 of them total to refresh your memory. There actually hasn't been a sequel in 9 years. I'm pretty impressed they never did make Final Destination 6. They talked about it. It was supposed to be set in the 1800s, but they never ended up doing it.
That sounds awesome.
But I would have loved it. But moreover, though, the thing about these movies is like they're not slasher movies. They're not. Like there's no killer. It's circumstance. Like people say it's death. It's death. Like it's this abject, force. But that's all it is. It's a bottle of water spilling on a floor and then a character slipping and falling. Yeah. And this is the thing that I always credit. This is the movie that made me a self-aware person. It made me aware of my surroundings because there's so much foreshadowing in these movies too. And the concept, if you're not familiar with it, I don't know how you can't be familiar, but essentially going off the first one is that Devon Sawa, who's a great follow on Twitter, I must add, Devon Sawa, Alex foresees the plane that him and his classmates are boarding exploding. He causes a commotion, gets a handful of people off the plane winds up exploding, and then everybody who was supposed to have died on the plane starts dying in freak accidents in the order they would have died had they been on the plane. And you can cheat death, but you can only cheat death up until a point. And I go back even to thinking about it. The fifth one is terrific. Stephen Quayle, one of the most underrated directors you'll ever know, directed the fifth one. And that was about the collapse of a suspension bridge, which is probably the best set piece in the entire movie. Probably hands down the best set piece of any Final Destination sequel that there's yet to be. And I go back to it. I've watched it a handful of times. It's long been a fascinating series for me because of the fact there's no killer. It's just circumstances where the world's writing itself in so many words. Final Destination, my second favorite horror film. Great one to watch for Halloween.
I have not watched any of the films, but I always saw them on the family video racks. So, and then I think just a couple years ago, I started watching like a compilation of all the deaths from Final Destination. If anything, those movies are just a justification to just play out a crazy scenario on how you're gonna freaking die. I think the one that may be the most paranoid, because it actually played on a real paranoia I have, is say what?
The third one with the roller coaster?
No, not the roller coaster. Oh. I actually maybe, but it was like a truck hauling logs.
Yeah,
two.
And then the logs
the second
come
one
off, and it goes through the windshield. I'm like, I've always thought about that.
Yeah, we all have. That's a common meme that you see. And just I'll say this and then I'll throw it over to you, Dom. The thing, too, that you can always talk about with Final Destination, it's cultural impact. How many times have we read about a freak accident or something, somebody dying in a freak circumstance and what do we say? That's some Final Destination shit.
Yeah. The tanning bed.
The tanning bed. One, and like I said, having seen these movies so young, it made me not want to do anything. No roller coasters, no tanning beds, no highways.
Don't take a shower?
Bridges, no NASCAR events. like Jesus Christ, man! I was sheltered in place long ago before this year.
Yeah.
Love me some Final Destination, though. Always have, always will. And if you can find the Natasha Rhodes novelizations, too, of the first 3 movies, they make for excellent books. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that third one made me afraid to go on roller coasters for like the longest time. 2's my favorite of the bunch, though. I love 2 to death.
2 is great. 2 is great. I'm telling you though, if you can find, they're hard as hell to find. If you can find the novelizations though, they're really good books. I did a book report on the second one in 7th grade.
Was it a straight adaptation of the movie?
Yeah.
That's
straight
hilarious.
Yep,
that is
I
peak
did,
mid 2000s. Holy hell!
It's peak Steve Pulaski too. Do a book report on a
It
goddamn
is.
movie.
So, oh my god. Okay. So number 2, my number 2 is. Dude, is that legit the trailer?
Yeah.
For 1982's The Thing?
Yeah.
That's an awesome trailer, too. Holy crap.
Yeah, that's a really well done. The moment I saw that, I'm like, the
Great
moment the
trailer.
thing comes on screen, I'm just going to point to Dom to go.
Yeah, dude. Like, wow. And like 4 years earlier, it was Halloween. And it was like, for John Carpenter's like, in Halloween night. You think, damn, okay.
That's fittingly abstract for a movie called The Thing.
Yeah, very true. Dude, this is one that I have not seen in a long, long time. I have gone back and actually watched clips of it, but I remember watching the movie, had to have been on Showtime or something, in high school. And this is another one that messed me up. I think it's my second scariest, actually legit scariest movie on this whole list, other than The Ring. And just it's got. I think I'm just more attracted to Halloween movies that have a good mystery in it, because the whole shtick with The Thing is that you don't know who has been consumed and assimilated into this parasitic alien, because it can perfectly replicate any living creature, and that is horrifying.
It's
It makes
Among
you
Us.
so paranoid. Say what?
It's Among Us.
No, it really, no, seriously, it is the game Among Us.
Yeah.
In fact, that game perfectly taps into the paranoia and the mystery of what the film is portraying. I wonder, is John Carpenter still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like for him, honestly, I would like for him to do like a Let's Play of like Among Us and just see how we react.
Him and AOC
The
playing
OG
Among
cast.
Us.
Yeah, dude.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah, but the thing you have to mention after the mystery itself and the concept is the incredible makeup and special effects here, and the just the horrifying. It is body horror to a T. It is just, oh my god, just watch any screenshot of any of the creatures or any of the horrifying things here. It is straight out of Alien, or like anything of it. It's unparalleled. I'm actually completely blanking on who did the special effects here. Damn, it's very shameful that I'm completely blanked on the name. But regardless, the stuff you see here, like when it's completely, like the imagination that goes into it is what makes it really horrifying. Like the CPR scene or the shock paddle scene where the guy, like, okay, clear, he goes in for the shock pad, and then the dude's entire torso opens up,
yeah, man,
into teeth and bites his hands off. Like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know that's like a thing anyone could ever imagine. You are a bastard for coming up with this. That is disgusting. And then the dude's head falls off, and then the head sprouts like spider legs. I'm like, Jesus, this is messed up.
Oh yeah.
And it messed me up as much as The Ring does, but in a different way, in that it puts it all out there. It really does. It's funny because it's like the Thing. It has moments of extreme paranoia where nothing's happening. Not nothing, but it's like you're just sitting with these characters, looking at their faces, and like it's just paranoid. And then the other spectrum is just full blown. The dog's literal face is opening vertically, and like, oh. And then the last thing I just want to mention here is it's been lauded time and time again, but I gotta pay my dues to the science experiment scene, the blood test scene, where four of the characters are tied up in chairs, and McCready, aka, oh my god, I'm so bad, Kurt Russell has a flamethrower, and it's like, let's test your blood because we know that we can do it there. It is one of the smartest things any character in it, not just any horror movie, but any movie period has ever done. And just how that whole thing develops completely catches you off guard. The feint there with the older character who like you think it's him, but it's actually someone else, and how it all plays out. The sound design here, where when they first surround the first person assimilated, and then he just like has this moan, not a scream that you'd think a creature would make, but a moan, is just so damn good. And I don't say that with horror movies because I don't watch a lot of horror, but there it is. It is just a damn good movie. One of John Carpenter's finest, without a doubt. And I should also mention the fact that this came out pretty much the same time as E.T. the Extraterrestrial is hilarious to me, because it didn't do well in the box office. Because like, am I going to watch The Thing with my family, or am I going to watch E.T.? I'm going to watch E.T.
Yeah, which movie that's going to inevitably give me nightmares am I going to choose?
Yeah.
That's another movie they remade. If you remember, they remade The Thing in 2011. That's another remake everybody forgot existed.
It was a prequel, actually.
It was a prequel.
Yeah.
Okay, it was a prequel.
It's about the team
I didn't see it.
Yeah, the team that shows up at the beginning of John Carpenter's movie. It's based on that team that was hunting that dog.
Yeah, I've seen some clips of that one, and the thing that kills it for me is that it's all CGI. They kind of like George Lucas did with the prequel.
It's more of a monster movie, like it going around slaughtering people more than like Paranoia, like that the original one.
And the
was.
killer, the kicker is that
modern.
In that 2011 remake, they actually did make special, like hard real life special effects for it. They just scrapped. It's like, nah, the CGI is gonna look better, or I don't know who. Probably someone in the studio made that decision, and it's like that's so frustrating because there's like screenshots of the original, like would have been the prosthetics. Like this looks really good. I'm sorry, Rob Bottin. Rob Bottin did it was the lead special effects makeup artist for the OG The Thing. So shout out to him. You're a messed up dude, Rob Bottin. God damn.
Yeah, I know in the 2011 one too. The only thing I remember about it is that it starred Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who is also the main character in Final Destination 3.
Yep.
For a nice 6 degrees right there.
Gotcha.
All right, my number 2 film.
Hello?
Hello?
Who is this?
Tell me your name, I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
What's that noise?
Popcorn.
You making popcorn?
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Someone is playing a deadly game.
It all began with a scream over.
Yes, number 2 for me is Wes Craven's Scream. Every year when I go see horror films and the bad ones come out, and I'm like, well, Scream once again proves right how these movies usually work. And not only that, but also this movie, even though it's not my number 1, it has, to me, the most iconic and my most favorite opening to a horror film of all time. I absolutely love this film. I love how it plays with the genre. I love how it makes fun out of the genre, it pokes at it. And I love how much it made a very popular killer, Ghostface. And they went off to make 4 sequels, and soon to be 5. This one, though, is my favorite of the bunch. The sequels after 2 is really good. I wasn't a fan of 3. I do like 4, and I'm waiting to see what they do with 5. But to me, Scream is just a fun time. I always tell people, if you're not a crazy horror movie person, like you don't like horror movies, you're kind of scared of them, I think Scream is a good entry point because it makes fun out of everything and points out the flaws with a lot of horror films that you as well might notice even if you're not into horror films. But then it also gives some genuinely good scares and some good laughs. It's a fun time. Another one I love to put on around Halloween, especially when it's on AMC, both the first and second one. And I love, because of this too, I actually really do love the first Scary Movie because of how much of a great parody it is of this film. Yeah, so yeah, my number 2 is Scream.
Honestly, I was gonna say, I might be in the minority. I liked most of the sequels. The third one's not great.
Yeah.
But I always love the third one because it features a crossover with Jay and Silent Bob, of all people. And I always love because they pass Connie Chung, who was at one point, if you don't know, married to Maury Povich, the talk show host. And Jay goes, "Hey, Connie, how's Maury?" after they were divorced. And I always thought that was great. I remember, I haven't seen those movies. The last time I saw the original trilogy was to prep for Scream 4.
Yeah.
Which I believe was the last movie Wes Craven made before he died. It was because it was My Soul to Take, and then it was Scream 4. But so I haven't seen these movies in almost a decade. But I remember liking Scream 2 almost a bit more than Scream. I'd have to go rewatch it.
There is some days I wake up and it's like, man, Scream 2 did this better, but like it's hard. Scream 1 and 2 I like a lot. Scream 3, like you said, is okay, and I can see why some people like it. I do enjoy the fourth one though. I think the fourth one's decent.
Anthony Anderson's good in it too.
Yeah.
Real quick, not so much about Scream, but just seeing that production logo of Dimension Films.
Right?
It
that
like
was
brings
nostalgia.
you back to the 90s and 2000s, dude.
2000s, yeah. Because that was before the Scary Movie, the first 2 or 3 of those, too. Dimension Films, yeah.
Yeah, dude. I think, did they do Rush Hour as well? I don't know why I associated with it.
I think they did, yeah. Because I think it's a division of New Line, if I'm not mistaken. New Line Cinema.
Yeah.
So I think the Dimension's a division of New Line. So yeah, it would make sense.
And then they paired it with the Weinstein Company, but we're not going to talk about that. But
that's a whole other horror movie.
There you go.
Oh boy, great choice. So now we're going to get to our number ones over here. We're going to get to our first round picks over here. My number one favorite horror film is
Perfection. A scorched outpost in the middle of nowhere.
You know how close I am to leaving this place right now? How close?
Maybe that's why Val and Earl decided to leave town.
Hey, hold up. That's Edgar Deans.
They just picked the wrong day to do it.
Jeez. You guys better get the hell out of here. There's a killer on the loose. Who could be doing it? Is that a snake? I'll give you boys $5 for this. 20. That's how they get you. They're under the ground. What the hell are those things? How could they eat all?
God, I want to go back and watch it right now.
that trailer was pulling me in, man.
Literally. That look way more horrific than I remember.
Tremors, baby. I texted my father because last week on the show I reviewed Tremors 7. They made it that far. Tremors Shrieker Island. Because my father's the one who got me into Tremors back in the day. I texted him and I told him what I thought of Tremors 7, and he goes, "They should have stopped after the first one." And I'm like, I got a little emotional at the end of Tremors 7. He goes, "You would." And I'm like, "You're the one who got me into it." And he goes, "Yeah, and you're the dumbass who liked it." You know, God, I love Tremors. I made a blog years and years ago called The 5 Movies That Made Me Love Movies. And Tremors was one of them. It's a damn fine creature feature, but it also has comic and Western overtones. It's a horror film that remembers characters need to be strong in order for a film to succeed. And you grow to love these characters. Val, Earl, Bert, Heather, Miguel, Walter Chung, you saw the shop owner. And even the lines in the movie, too. Just the rugged blue-collar dialogue, which I love in this movie, too. One of the many great lines, I could probably take the next half hour and quote the movie, but one of the great lines is when they're like, when Val goes, "Where do they come from?" And Earl goes, "I vote for outer space. Ain't no way these are local boys." It is such a fun movie, and it ties you in. It ropes you into this like 25-person desert town of Perfection, Nevada, where nothing happens. But on this day, everything seems to happen and culminate. Finn Carter is really good in it too, as Rhonda the seismologist. Reba McEntire's in it. Michael Gross went on to make a career, a second act of his career playing Burt Gummer. And again, going back to Final Destination even too, this was a series that I'm glad, some people lament sequels. This was this should have been a franchise, and thankfully it was. Same with Final Destination. These are concepts that loan themselves to multiple sequels. The Joyride sequels, you know, take them or leave them. I generally leave them. But this Tremors, I'm glad they made sequels. Not all were amazingly good, but at least the first 3 deserve to be watched. And God almighty, do I love Tremors. It was the artwork of my 6th grade English folder. We all could decorate our folders for a day. And I drew the 3, Rhonda, Val, and Earl on the rocks with the worms underneath. Yeah, my straight out of college English teacher thought I was completely normal. Tremors, my number 1 favorite horror movie forever and always.
Nice. All right. Number 1. My number 1. I think you might know this one too.
In 1968, George Romero brought us Night of the Living Dead. It became the classic horror film of its time.
Not that room! Not that room!
Yeah.
Now, George
Dawn of
Romero
the Dead,
brings us the most
1978,
intensely
George Romero.
shocking motion picture experience for all times.
He gets up and kills.
Voiceovers
The people
over
he
here.
kills get up and kill. This situation must be
I know.
controlled before
No,
it's
I
too
know.
late.
I
They
know.
are multiplying
It's okay. I
too
know it's still on, but
rapidly.
I'm talking about it.
Dawn of the Dead.
Meet me on the roof at 9 o'clock. Getting out.
I don't believe it.
Number 1, Dawn of the Dead, the OG by Mr. Romero himself. I actually need to go back and watch all of his zombie movies. There's the original trilogy, Night, Dawn, and Day of the Dead. But in
Don't
terms
forget
of
Survival. Don't forget Survival in 2009. That was Romero's last movie.
that was his last. I should say those are the original. So is it a quadrilogy? He kept on making more, like
I think
Land
it's
of the
Night,
Dead,
Dawn, and
Diary.
Day.
Yeah, I don't think those were. I don't think those were well received. But regardless, Dawn of the Dead is it's such a movie that is I hold so close to my heart. I didn't even it didn't even register as a horror movie. That's why I was like, I don't know. Can I come up with a 5-movie list? And but as soon as I remembered this one, it was like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm good for this, man. Dude, the first 15 minutes of this movie is some of my favorite openings to any movie, period. I'm not joking. It's up there with Saving Private Ryan, one of the greatest war films ever and one of the greatest battle scenes ever. Star Wars and all that, and the OG Star Wars movie, the first one. So watch it, and then Dawn of the Dead, just seeing the breakdown of society happen all around you, particularly in a news station. The implication being that everything happening at that news station is being broadcast to potentially millions.
I see a pattern with Dom's choices over here.
I think you can, but it's just so fascinating because zombies are just so they're honestly their own genre separate from horror at this point. They're just so ubiquitous in movies, video games, and television.
Yeah.
Just the strength about zombies, you could say easily about any horror movie or any work of art, but the thing I like most about zombie movies in general is when they can hold up a mirror to society, kind of like why I love Borat so much. That's why I consider Borat high art. And if you want to hear me, if that sounds weird to you, watch our review on that. But with Dawn of the Dead, the main commentary here is rampant consumerism because it takes place in a mall. And these badass characters has a really, really strong female protagonist. But for real, Galen Ross as Francine Fran Parker is really strong in this movie as well, kicking ass and blowing heads off of zombies. But then as the movie goes on with our characters, they get consumed by the mall, by material things, what seemed like a good idea at the time, and it keeps them alive for a long time as well. It becomes their undoing. And that scene where David Emge as Steven, the flyboy, the helicopter pilot, the part where the biker gang is raiding the mall, and he could have let them go. He could have just let them raid the mall, have some fun, and then leave. The fact that he needs to engage with them because they're messing with his mall, they're stealing his stuff. And it's such a deep cut on consumerism, on like American need for like owning things. You can even make a Second Amendment argument there, not as strongly, but just George Romero's commentary has always been on point from his very first zombie movie, from Night of the Living Dead, which was a huge commentary on racism. When the police show up and they kill the main black protagonist, even though he survived all these horrors of the night, the police come in and they kill him. So if anything, you could credit Jordan, or you can credit him for inspiring Jordan Peele in that regard, in that specific moment. But dude, Dawn of the Dead, I could talk about this movie scene for freaking scene. The apartment raid scene where it shows the police being racist as shit, and like one dude is just completely losing it and executing people even though they're fine. The claustrophobia of it all, and the incredible special effects work of Tom Savini, who shows up as the lead.
Great Tom Savini.
The lead raider, the lead biker, leader of the biker gang here. His bright red blood has become iconic for that era. For that kind of horror. The exploding heads of the zombies is so cool to me. And seeing it all play out with these four characters, the four actors here never really went on to do much after that. This was pretty much their claim to fame, which is a shame because they're all just so damn good in their roles. And it's just so fascinating to watch them interact with this scenario as it plays out. Them build. It's really like watching a survival game play out, right? They find the mall, they clear out the zombies, and they start building their own little society inside of it, and they start enjoying life there. And it's just so cool over time to see how, again, that consumerism takes hold of them. So, and of course, just classic zombie horror, classic zombie violence here is so damn good. George Romero, rest in peace, good sir. One of the greatest of all times, not just in horror, but perhaps in filmmaking. So it's my tribute to him.
Excellent choice.
All right. And here is my number one favorite horror film.
Planet Earth, home to over 6 billion people. Today, our very existence is threatened by epidemics, climate change, and dwindling resources. But those are the least of our problems. Welcome to Zombieland.
All right, yeah.
You had me guessing.
I was like, damn, like this trailer, like you don't know what it is at first when it opens up. I know, like, despite like everything else, like I was mostly picking like serious horror films, and then all of a sudden I throw in the horror comedy at the tail end. The reason being is that, like Dom, like I love the zombie genre as well. And Shaun of the Dead for the longest time was my favorite zombie film because of how much it pokes fun at that. Was that one you wanted to put on your list?
I'm not sure now, but it probably would have been at least 6.
Yeah. So, yeah. Like, it pokes fun at the whole zombie genre and everything. And I love George Romero's work. Land of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, all of that. It's great. Zombieland to me is just like Shaun of the Dead. It encompasses everything I love about the zombie apocalypse and manages to do its own thing as well. I love the characters here. Tallahassee, Little Rock, like all of them. Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone. Oh my God, I'm forgetting the little girl's name.
Abigail Breslin.
Thank you. They're great together as a family of zombie killers. They work off each other perfectly. They have the best chemistry I have seen in a comedy like ever. It's such a like such character types, the badass, the scaredy cat, the hot chick, and then the little girl that's sassy. But they make it work so damn well. And there's just some really good jokes in this. Also, like, it's near and dear to my heart because this is the first rated R film I snuck into. And it was a blast to sneak into something like this. And, like, have it be not only one of your favorite horror films and also one of my favorite films of all time, but just, like, a classic staple of just zombies in general and just of that year. I remember everybody in 2009 at my school was talking about this movie. And you damn right, I was like, yeah, well, I snuck in to go see Zombieland. Oh, man. I had a blast watching this. It's a ton of fun, and it's so short and sweet and straight to the point. It's an hour and a half long. It doesn't delay. It doesn't slow down at all. It gets right to the point. I wish it never made a sequel. Not that I think the sequel's that bad, but it feels so unnecessary. I remember just walking out of it thinking, well, I could have gone on life without that, but here we are. We have Zombieland 2 now. But all in all, I think Zombieland is one of my favorite films, one of my favorite horror films of all time, and you should check it out if you haven't already.
I liked Double Tap. I truly did. I thought it was a fitting. It was a better sequel than it had any right to be 10 years late. Because I was of the belief that they were really gonna go quick and make a sequel to it. But then they never got it off the ground. There was at one point they were talking about doing an Amazon show that they did a pilot for it. I don't think the pilot ever got released, but it never got picked up. And I remember thinking that like by 2015, I'm like, just leave it dead. Then I'm like, just leave it dead. You're not gonna do it. I was amazed. It's better. I liked it. I liked it quite a bit. For, like I said, a sequel 10 years late, it's better than it has any right to be. But it also had the benefit, the original Zombieland, of coming out. I know zombies were getting pretty popular at that time with The Walking Dead, but it was so fresh. It felt like Shaun of the Dead reinvigorated again in that genre with such an eclectic cast. At least the sequel brought all four back.
Yeah,
I think Zombieland was like the apex of the zombie craze before it by then it had already cemented, but the cement kind of drying, you know, and now it's just standard practice, almost blasé to a point, at least where it is now. But I think Zombieland was the apex of that.
I think it definitely did cement it in mainstream because it was a comedy. So it's just like, and
it was really accessible.
I remember this thing made a lot of money in its box office run, man. I remember it was like in theaters for a long time. It came out in September. I think it stayed all the way through October as well.
Yeah, no, I think it even went beyond Halloween. Like it had lasting impact.
Yeah.
And Ruben Fleischer directed it. He went on to do 30 Minutes or Less, another movie with Jesse Eisenberg, and I think Aziz Ansari was in that as well.
Yeah.
Very, very good choice. Did not know where you're going to go with that one, but I remember, and I'll tell you right now, in pre-show we were talking about, Dom's like, is this going to be an hour? Well, take a look at that, an hour and 20 minutes. And we had a lot to say about these movies. Would be interested in hearing any of your favorite horror movies as well in the comments or whatnot. But that's been our bonus show for Sleepless with Steve. I'm going to take a long nap tonight. 2 shows in 1 week. That's exhausting right there.